Just like
Do you need
don't
help?
talk during transitions and stuff.
Okay, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
don't talk.
also just make sure wait until I give you mic and cue because there's gonna be all those like little transitions just with like the drum beats and stuff like that. So I'm gonna count you in and just like hold it.
one thing to say 30 seconds before.
Live from Penn State's campus, this is Nittany Talk. I'm Olivia Ostamer, and in today's episode, we have a politics special for you all. My fellow political panelists and I will be breaking down the midterm election results, taking a look at our coverage at the polls, and talking with President of the Lion Caucus, Ben Brauser. Now, let's get to talking.
Seven, 6, 3.
Welcome back to Nittany Talk. My co-hosts Jace Obardo, Paloma Frount, Jeremy Laguerre, Francie Ebert, and I will be discussing the midterm election results and what it means for the future of the United States. So, what happened to the red wave?
I think the red wave did not happen for multiple reasons. Number one is I think a lot of these candidates were following the Trump campaign. And I think they thought that was going to benefit them. But I think a lot of people are sick of these extremist views. And I think we're looking for more moderate outlook. We had Lake in Arizona didn't win. We had Zeldin in New York didn't win. We had Oz and we had Mastriano in PA didn't win. And they were all following, I'm going to say it again, Trump's campaign. And, after January of last year, I think there's a lot of reasons why people are kind of hesitant and backing off and kind of like what's going on with this. So I think that was one of the main reasons why the red wave just did not.
I agree. Yeah. Everything being so highly polarized right now, January 6th happening, and, big things for the debate like abortion. I think that being such a big subject this time around, when people were looking for who to vote, I think a lot of them thought, if I vote Republican, I'm voting against abortion. Whether that's true or not, there's many Republicans who have said they are pro-abortion. However, the overall mentality is, Republicans are anti-abortion, Democrats are pro-abortion. And, again, whether it's true or not, I think a lot of people voted with that mentality this time around.
Yeah, I don't know if the reason they lost was because their ideas were radical in comparison to like Donald Trump. I just think some of them were too far right, not because of Donald Trump, just their policies. I think that Republicans had a poor pool to pick from, and if moving forward Republicans want to take back power in 2024 and have a Republican president, then they need better quality candidates, because I don't really think we had much of that in the United States for these races. I do think in Pennsylvania, Dr. Oz was the better candidate, but as we know, John Fetterman did win, and so I was kind of surprised by that one, but I wasn't surprised that Doug Mastriano lost, because, like I said, he was just too far right for a lot of conservatives in the state.
Well, in my opinion, I think the reason that we didn't see a red wave is because the Republican Party is way too divided right now. You see, we have this Trumpism. We have this huge side of the Republican Party that believes in this Trumpism, these more extremist, more polarizing views. And then we have a side that's more on the DeSantis kind of way of thinking. DeSantis won big in Florida, and he didn't even need a Trump endorsement. So I think the split we're seeing in the Republican Party is the reason why they're not really winning they didn't really win in these midterm elections. We're not really seeing the results that the Republicans were expecting. So, I think that the election was definitely a referendum on Trumpism. I think that the United States is tired of the kind of polarization we saw from Trump and his whole following over the past 6 years. And I think that's why we didn't see a red wave, because I think the Republican Party, a huge part of the Republican Party, is just sick of it. So
That's what I mean when we talk about quality candidates, though. Ron DeSantis is a good quality candidate. And there's other people out there who, even if you like Trump, there's other candidates who aren't as divisive as him, who will be able to get the job done.
Right. But if he's the leader of the Republican Party, it's really hard for other Republicans to kind of come in and, get those nominations from the party. We've seen him lead this party for the past 6 years. So, and then this election, we saw his influence didn't really help that much.
Yeah.
I mean, his candidates he endorsed, only a few got elected. So
Yeah, but I don't know. I kind of disagree that he's the head of the Republican Party, because especially now there's a lot of people speaking out against him, and he's expected to announce he's going to run for president at some point today. I don't know what time the announcement is. I thought it would have been by now, but I just don't think he's the head of the Republican Party. I think people are ready to move away from Donald Trump.
I think a lot of candidates don't want Donald Trump associated with them, and which makes sense because he does have so much backlash. I agree with you. I don't think that he's necessarily the head of the party. I think that
he's just the most vocal right now, and everyone else is afraid to speak up.
I think that because of how much influence he did have the past few years, a lot of people, when they do think Republican, they are thinking Trump. Whether he is, endorsing some of these candidates or not, I think it affected all candidates, though, because he is being thought of as the head, even by, like you're saying, a lot of candidates didn't want him.
I mean, I agree. I think there's obviously always going to be that underlying reason. Like if I were to sit here and talk about why Oz didn't win, I wouldn't say, oh, it's because he had something to do with Trump. I wouldn't say that. I would say that I think that the points that he made weren't really, so he was advocating a lot for reducing crime in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, right? And what you have to understand is that majority of Pennsylvania is suburban people. And, after COVID, you have that population of people all of a sudden aren't going into the cities anymore. So they're not being exposed to the crime. And, crime is increasing in these cities. So it is a problem. But now all of a sudden the population of people that were going into the cities, and now that's not a thing anymore, because a lot of people are working from home. So what I'm trying to say is that there's less and less people becoming aware of these problems. So his approach to trying to, like, that campaign of going out and saying we have to reduce crime in these areas, that doesn't affect people personally anymore.
It's not
But I don't think crime was what people were most concerned with when they were voting.
No, but that was something that he was.
Right, yeah.
Like,
of course that was a talking point.
Yeah,
it kind of has to be a talking point, but people voted based on the economy and women's rights, and that's why I think a lot of Democrats won, was because of the abortion issue, because a lot of Republicans aren't very much on board with abortion, and like we had Doug Mastriano, he didn't really believe in any exceptions to it. And Dr. Oz, he kind of shot himself in the foot, for lack of better terms, in the debate, because when they asked him about abortion, he said that it should be between a woman, her doctor, and local government. And he should have just stopped at doctor. And I think that was a point that really turned a lot of people away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why Fetterman was able to navigate some more people in there, because he was able to be like, I'm willing to, I'm for abortion. Like, it's a woman's choice.
True. I was actually pretty surprised by the Fetterman win. I was surprised that he was able, to win despite his terrible debate performance. Like, he would just, we all saw that debate. He couldn't even speak. So I'm surprised that he won, and I wonder what that's attributed to.
Mm-hmm. And kind of going back to abortion, I found it surprising that so many people, their top issue this election was abortion, because when we were looking at, the polls and statistics earlier a few weeks ago, the economy was the number one thing that people really had an issue with, and that's how they were voting. That's the candidate. They were choosing their candidate based on the economy. But I think as election day rolled up, abortion really kind of took over.
That's kind of my issue with the polls, is because you kind of need them to have a conversation just so you have something to base numbers off of.
Mm-hmm.
But they're hardly ever accurate because they just sample such a small portion of people. And so
Yeah, I mean, talk about 2016 presidential election.
Right, exactly. It all
I mean,
it all flipped. And so wasn't Hillary Clinton favored to win by like 96% or
Like,
something
a lot,
like
yeah.
that?
What? Like,
And
I
so
also think it's where you're asking, like, I'm sure if we go around Penn State right now and we ask people why they voted, they're going to see abortion. It's what affects us most at this age. You know, then you go out to where I'm from, and like outside of Philly, people are voting with their wallet this time. I do think it depends, you know, I'm sure that each polling station had like an issue that most of the people in that area were focused on. I do think Center County was more focused on abortion than maybe, you know, places right outside of the city that are more focused on crime. Voting with their wallets this time, you know, it all depends, I think.
And so the Democrats took over the Senate, which was obviously that's not what everybody was talking about, right? Do we have any predictions for the House? I know they're still counting the votes, but it looks like the Republicans are leading and they probably will take a lead, right?
yeah, I definitely think Republicans are going to take back the House. They just need one more seat, and Kevin McCarthy was actually just nominated or just got the nomination. So I do think Republicans are going to take back the House, and that's going to kind of give more of a balance to Congress. But we'll see where it goes in 2024.
And how could that, you know, possibly affect Biden's performance as president for his next 2 years?
Well, in the Senate, it's really going to affect it because they have the majority still. So he'll definitely be able to get more done as opposed to Republicans being in the Senate. But I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a beneficial. Well, the results of the midterm, just in general, were beneficial to Democrats. I mean, they retain control of the Senate, and then the House is a slight Republican majority. But still, you know, having the Senate and, you know, obviously the presidency being Democratic is definitely going to help them over the next 2 years. And, you know, I think that the reason we kind of saw these results is because, you know, the Democrats were the people who kind of got us out of the pandemic. You know, they kind of got us out of all of this turmoil that we were seeing in 2020 after we had a Republican administration in office. So I think that's probably why we are seeing these results now.
Mm-hmm.
Were you guys? I was going to say, were you guys surprised by Florida with Ron DeSantis winning the governor's seat?
I was not surprised.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it
think
makes sense. Yeah, he's like a prospective 2024 nominee for presidency. I mean, he's doing very well in Florida. People in Florida like him, and he's very popular within the Republican Party. I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if he ran in 2024. I don't know if he actually announced it yet.
I would not be surprised if he does. I think that a lot of people see him like we saw Obama before. It is a younger guy with kids, beautiful wife. Like people like that. They like the image of who they're voting for. Obama won people's hearts before because he was a young guy, our first Black president. You know, family and everything. People could relate to him. And I think it's the same case with DeSantis.
Yeah, and real quickly before we go, DeSantis versus Trump.
DeSantis, I think.
Who's gonna win?
I think DeSantis.
And I don't know that. See, I can't even picture them going up against each other.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I say DeSantis is because I think that the Republican Party is going to want a younger voice in office. Donald Trump's going to be 78 in 2024. So, you know, do we really want to elect somebody who's going to be that old? You know.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all so much. Next up, we will do some time traveling, and we'll take you back to Election Day. For Nittany Talk, I'm Olivia Osthamer.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.
Live from the campus of Penn State University, this is PSN News. Penn State Network News is a student-produced, bi-weekly live news show featuring all student talent.
From local and national news to sports, entertainment, weather, and live interviews, we have it all.
We also feature student-made packages from across campus.
Airing every Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m.
We are PSN News.
Be sure to check us out on Twitter and Facebook at PSN News, on Instagram at Penn State Network News, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/PSN News.
Have a good night and stay safe, Penn State. Hey everyone, we are Red Carpet News, your main source of entertainment news at Penn State University. Man, this festival is going to be popping.
I'm Alex Porzillo, you're here with Aiden Harold.
He's going to 23rd with Daddy Elon Warbucks to actual space away from Kim.
So in sync, especially during Kendrick's part when they came out, reporting on anything from music, movies, TV shows, fashion, to celebrity gossip. You don't want to miss out on any of the hot topics we discuss.
Find our segments on YouTube under the name Red Carpet News for your daily dose of entertainment.
We are Red Carpet News.
The Nittany Talk Politics panel has a special out-of-studio report for all of you today.
We are at polling locations where we are seeing a mix of college students, elderly people, and everything in between.
All of whom come for one thing, to make their voices heard.
As we've been at these various polling locations, we've seen waves of people come at various different times. Most of them coming at 8 a.m. before work, around noon on their lunch break, and at 6 p.m. right after work.
Follow us along to see us visit a range of different polling locations here in Centre County.
Centre County, with a population over 150,000 people, sitting right in the middle of Pennsylvania, was in the midst of an important midterm election, as PA is a swing state. We visited Bellefonte, State College, Ferguson Township, and College Township.
Several PA state house elections occurred in Centre County, including the 77th, 82nd, and 171st districts. The national elections in PA were the races the rest of the country was paying close attention to. For the governor's race, Josh Shapiro from the Democratic Party faced off against Doug Mastriano from the Republican Party. For a highly competitive Senate seat, Democrat John Fetterman faced off against Republican Mehmet Oz.
Centre County saw a large voter turnout on Election Day, which is surprising to many people. According to Fair Vote, the United States voter turnout in presidential elections is around 60%, compared to midterm elections, which are around 40%.
Turnout's really heavy all across the region.
Midterms typically do not have a very high turnout, but judging just from an N of 1 here, it's been very steady.
Following the 2020 election conspiracy theories, which prompted the thoughts of an unsecure election, Centre County Director of Elections and Voter Registration assured that the Centre County vote counting process is trustworthy.
Centre County is very prepared and does an excellent job on getting the votes out.
And some Centre County residents agree with Beth. However, others don't.
So I think it's about as safe as it could possibly be.
Yes, I trust the local guys. I really do. They're friends. But do I trust the system in general? Not so much.
I feel very, very good about the security of the elections, particularly the place that I'm working and the precinct where I voted.
Democrat Scott Conklin won Pennsylvania's 77th district, Democrat Paul Tackett won Pennsylvania's 82nd district, and Republican Carrie Benninghoff won Pennsylvania's 171st district in the state house races. Josh Shapiro, a Democrat, won governor, and John Fetterman, also a Democrat, won the Senate race. We saw a huge blue wave in Pennsylvania's elections this year.
People are starting to realize how important local politics are.
While speaking to many Centre County residents, we learned that abortion and the economy were the most important issues voters were looking at within candidates. While most races have been called and most votes have been counted, the Georgia Senate race between Walker and Warnock is headed to a runoff on December 6th.
For Nittany Talk, we are the political panelists.
Olivia Osthamer,
Jaso Bardo,
Jeremy Laguerre,
Francie Ebert, and Paloma Freund.
Ready, mics? 3, 2, fade in on 2, mic and cue.
This is Nittany Talk.
of like us making shows out there?
I would say spring.
And he knew that. How do you say
I know. She like continues to hold her values and everything though. And I think that that's really important. So yeah, and self-care Saturday.
And you lose a lot of sleep.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to Culture Central. My name is Jaden Stewart,
What's good, everybody? My name is Eric Pichardo, and we are your hosts
creators
and executive producers of Culture Central. Is this Whitney Houston? Like,
We're doing things that have never been done before, so welcome to the family.
If you don't include human beings, you cannot accurately model the way the climate has changed over the last 50 years.
And I don't know that we're ever going to be free of some sort of bug.
The natural state of motion for something to be in is to remain in its current state of motion.
Been lucky enough to discover various things out there. Pulsars, exoplanets, and some other phenomena that ended up being interesting.
Hi, I'm Johnson Gary with Asking Penn State.
With Asking Penn State, Asking Penn State.
Asking Penn State. Asking Penn State.
Welcome back to Asking Penn State.
Welcome back to Nittany Talk. I'm Olivia Osthamer, and in our last segment of our politics special, Ben Brauser, president of Lion Caucus, an advocacy group, joins the panel. Thanks for coming, Ben.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start off by talking about elections. Give us a little bit of a rundown of what you did to prepare for these past elections.
Absolutely. So my involvement in preparing for the elections here at University Park campus was with the umbrella organization, Penn State Votes. And that's a collaborative work with student governments like the University Park Undergraduate Association and several partisan affiliated organizations on campus, like the College Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. We all come together and we table in the hub to encourage students to register to vote, whether that's voting by mail, voting in their home districts, or registering that they can vote here in the hub. And we had incredible success with that program. We had record voter turnout here at Penn State, and we also hosted a debate between the College Republicans and the College Democrats, and over 100 students came in attendance.
Wow. Talk about that debate. How'd it go?
I felt that that was a phenomenal debate. I had the honor of being able to be one of the moderators there, and I had a splendid time working with some of the debaters on both sides of the aisle. They came with well-prepared topics. We spoke about education, and our audience was very engaged with that event. We had good feedback, we provided Panera, and most importantly, we communicated the importance of students participating in their democracy.
And why are you so passionate about kind of telling and showing other students why they should be voting?
Well, I think
why to
that
get involved?
especially in this past election, we can see how important it is. There have been a number of races decided by just a few hundred votes. And even here in Pennsylvania, our state house is still up in the air. And many of those seats came down to sometimes tens of votes, which is an incredibly close margin. Students voting really truly changes the outcome of elections.
Right.
Yeah, so you're very politically involved here at Penn State. And like we said in your intro, you are the president of Lion Caucus. So I just want you to talk a little bit about what Lion Caucus is and how, well, we'll start there. Tell us about Lion Caucus.
Sure. Lion Caucus is a student organization closely affiliated with Penn State's Office of Government and Community Relations. For those of you that aren't familiar, that office handles the university's advocacy strategy at the state and federal level. So as an organization, our primary focus is to advocate for Penn State students to receive a greater in-state appropriation. That appropriation comes from the state of Pennsylvania. It's about $6,000 per in-state student. Currently, we're advocating for that amount to be increased by about 47%, which is a very substantial ask. And
yeah, so tell us a little bit about how those appropriations impact Penn State students and how this budget proposal is really going to be impacted by getting a new governor.
Yeah, I think the governor elections have been very influential in our appropriations. Penn State is a public university, so a substantial portion of our funding comes from the state, and that funding goes directly to reducing the cost for in-state students to attend here at Penn State. Now, there are several other schools in Pennsylvania that receive an appropriation, and on a per-student basis, Penn State students receive the least money out of any students in the Commonwealth, and we feel that that is an unfair allocation of resources when we educate more students than any other school in Pennsylvania. So that's a big part of our advocacy, and we're really looking forward to working with the new governor who sets the budget and sets the appropriation request.
Now, did you anticipate the turnouts like in our, I know you work with helping a lot of students that go to Penn State to vote. Were you anticipating the amount of people that were voting? You were surprised?
We always try to be optimistic, but I think that these numbers were positively surprising. I read that this was one of the highest youth voter turnouts in almost 30 years, which for a midterm election, I think that really speaks to the fact that students are becoming aware that their votes matter and that they really care about the issues that are being voted on.
What do you think drove students this year? Like when you're going around campus, advocating for votes, what do you find students are most concerned about?
I find that students' opinions often do reflect those of the wider population. I think students were really concerned about abortion access, contraceptive rights, and also inflation, the state of our economy. I think a unique issue for students going into this midterm might have been the cost of college education, especially after the Biden administration's decision to reduce costs or reduce loans for many students that were challenged in courts. I think that might have perked some students' interest in the elections, but overall, I think what really turned them out to vote was abortion access and the state of the economy.
So you're obviously very involved in local politics. So what would you say to students who may be thinking about going into politics or studying politics?
Well, I do study politics, and I think that it's a phenomenal study for people that are looking to understand how things function. I think that's fundamentally what a political science degree is about. It's learning about the ways and means of how things are accomplished within society. As far as students that are interested for getting involved, I think that can take a lot of forms. It doesn't mean they need to be running for elections or volunteering for campaigns. There's a lot of nonpartisan work, like I do within our student government or within Lion Caucus, where students can help other students to get involved in our democracy.
Yeah, so you probably heard our reactions to the midterm results. Just like, what are your reactions in general? Were you expecting the Senate outcome in Pennsylvania? How about Arizona?
I think in the last few election cycles, the polls had tended to underestimate support for Republican candidates. So just based off of that kind of trend that I'd identified, I thought that maybe that would be replicated. But I was surprised to see that Democrats were outperforming their own polls, which was a shock. And I think that that's reflected in a lot of the media that were claiming there would be a wet red wave, which very clearly did not materialize. I think that the Democrats have a lot to celebrate with holding the Senate in a midterm year, especially with the economic tailwinds. I think that was a very present surprise for them.
And how do you think that's going to translate to 2024?
Having control of the Senate, I think, is quintessential for the Democrats going into the 2024 election. They will be able to say that they've continued to appoint judges at all levels. They can continue to pass legislation in the upper chamber and then deliver that to the House, which it looks like it may be controlled by Republicans, but only by a slim margin. I think that control of the Senate gives them the ability to still pursue a legislative agenda.
Do you have any advice for somebody that's a student, not just at Penn State, any other college, that wants to get involved in politics, in government, wants to make a difference in this country?
I think that a lot of students fall into a trap of assuming that because of their age or because of their lack of employment, that they're not as qualified to speak about issues in our country. And I would encourage them to kind of set those thoughts aside and remember that everyone has something valuable and unique to bring as a perspective. And that's why we have suffrage for students. And it's very important that they are engaged in that process. I think that for anyone that's looking to become involved, an important first step is to do some research and read about what's happening in the economy to become an informed voter. I think that engagement starts with ourselves, and then you can spread that message to other students.
Right. Amazing advice. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you all for joining us on our politics special. For Nittany Talk, I'm Olivia Ostimer, and we will see you next time.